Good afternoon, Las Vegas, and listeners all around the country. This is Kevin Lepine. Thank you so much for joining us on Live Unleashed Radio. Of course, Hypnosis Unleashed at the Hooters Casino Hotel, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. 21 and over are always welcome. All Nevada natives get half off, and all of our local first responders, all firefighters, all police, all local military, EMTs, always have a free ticket. Just show your ID at the box office. Any of our national first responders or any guests of local first responders are always only $12. It was a great week at the show. It was a great week to come back. Of course, I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. And on top of having fun at my show this week, I also got to spend yesterday in Los Angeles, well, Hollywood more specifically, over at the Magic Castle. Our guest from last week, the amazing Jonathan, is doing his final show today at the Magic Castle. I got to see one of his retirement shows, and it actually got me thinking, and this is actually going to lead into our guest, because this is something that we were talking about earlier, and that is, when do you just get the chance to enjoy the fruits of your labor? One of the things that we do a lot in life that stops us from living unleashed, one of the things that holds us back a lot, is the fact that we're never told that you're allowed to enjoy what you've earned. We're always told that you have to go, you have to push, you have to do more, you have to grow, you have to increase. And that ambition is good. It's a strong quality. It's an important quality to have if you're going to go out there and live your dream. But there's a just as important of a part where you go, when do you want to step back? What kind of life do you want to be living when you step back? And what does enjoying that mean to you? A lot of people, there was a great story that I read once about people who die from retirement because they don't know how to retire. They haven't come with a plan. They don't know what to enjoy. And after 6 months or a year, they suddenly realize they don't have anything to be retired from anymore. You know, there's always that moment where we get to go, what am I passionate about now? If I didn't have to make money doing something, what would I love to sit around and do? And who would I sit around and enjoy doing it with? And you have to make those plans to decide, what does enjoying the next phase of your life mean to you? If you don't do that, you find yourself in the trap where you don't know how to step away and you don't know how to enjoy it. So always remember, when you're making your goals, when you're making your short-term goal, your midterm goal, and your long-term goal, which is a topic we haven't talked about in a while, but one of the things to always look at when you want to accomplish something is know where you want to end up. Know where the halfway point is so that you can see that you've gotten closer to your goal, and always set up short-term goals so you know that even on a day-by-day case, you've gotten closer and closer to achieving your midterm, and then you'll see your long-term goal right there. But then the question becomes, what do you do once you've achieved the long-term goal? One thing that I had spoken on once is the fact that people say all the time, I could die happy right now because I've accomplished this specific thing. To which my question is, but can you live happy if you don't accomplish anything like that again? And it's looking at the other things in your life that you want that'll help fulfill you and keep you going. So when it's time to step away from one thing, you have the ability, the desire, and the momentum to move into something else. We're going to be joined at the bottom of the hour by my co-host, William Arendell. Just a minute, we'll be back from commercial break. We're going to be joined by comedian, hypnotist, teacher, author, Don Barnhart. We'll talk to you in 2 minutes.
Monday Mayhem is back at Gene Woods Racing Experience Go-Kart Track. The stakes are higher than ever, and the winner takes all if you've got what it takes. The winner will get to race a real Thunder Roadster at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in an actual race. So be there every Monday. First race starts at 7. Come early to register. We are located at 121 East Sunset Road at the Sports Center, across from McCarran Airport. For more information, call us at 702-270-8100. That's 702-270-8100. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can go to our website at racingexperiencelv.com. Once you race here, you won't go anywhere else. Monday Mayhem is back.
it's Roxy from the 702 Rock Show, right here at VegasAllNetRadio.com. Listen to my show every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear about local artists, musicians, fashion designers, and more right here in Las Vegas. So tune in every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear me, Michelle Roxy Davis, right here at VANR on the 702 Rock Show.
Hello, Las Vegas from Hypnosis Unleashed. All Las Vegas locals get half off every night at the show, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. Come and join us for Las Vegas's wildest hypnosis show. Watch your friends get turned into rock stars, watch them do the craziest things, or come and be hypnotized yourself. This show has won all the awards here in Las Vegas, and we want to show you why. Come join us every Tuesday through Sunday night. VegasHypnosisShow.com for more details. That's VegasHypnosisShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for letting us into your radios every Tuesday afternoon. So I am joined in studio today by an author, a teacher of comedy, a comic, man who's traveled all over the world, also a hypnotist as well, documentary maker, really a man of many, many hats and many talents. Please welcome Don Barnhart.
Hello. Hey, Kevin.
Don, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, with that intro, I'm impressed to see me.
Yeah, I know. Wow. Your resume is fantastic. What's the next gig?
The next gig, I head out to a cruise ship on Thursday, 2 weeks up in Alaska, doing my stand-up and hypnosis show.
Very cool.
It's a little combination of both.
And when are you back here in town doing stand-up?
This month. Well, we're July already. Is that amazing? The time zips by when you're living in the moment.
I remember it being April the last time I blinked.
I remember it being 1978 the last time I blinked. I'll be at Brad Garrett's Club in August, headlining there, and then I'll also be headlining at the Riviera Comedy Club doing my stand-up.
Very nice.
In August, so locals can come check me out.
And here's something really, really cool. And I know that Brad didn't necessarily bring this back, but for a while there was this really negative attitude with different comedy club bookers where if you worked one club in Vegas, you weren't allowed to work the other one, and this person wouldn't let you work here. But it's kind of opened up a lot more now.
Brad really helped drive a wedge into that old school thinking. Charlene from the Riviera is very supportive of the local comics, so we can go back to back. They just ask that you don't work the same week, different clubs. You know, they don't want you doubling up. So you can work one club, Harry at the Laugh Factory. We can bounce week to week to week, so that we just don't want to advertise, I'm working both clubs this week.
Right. Well, and that can get confusing.
Right.
But like if you did Brad Garrett's club and then there were a few days off and then over at the Trop and then a couple days off and then over at the Riv, because let's be honest, the average tourist's life is 96 hours.
Right. And that's why you're able to have such a successful show here, is because you have the tourists coming in every day. It's a brand new crowd. Now, unfortunately for the locals sometimes, but there's so much opportunity to see so many different shows, so they can rotate around and in 3 weeks come back and it's a brand new show. You know, and your show specifically, because it's so different every day.
Oh, yeah. You know, always just different people and different attitudes. But we're going to talk a little bit about that, because you do hypnosis as well, so you have to learn to play with other people.
Sure.
But you didn't start off by running around the world doing all this stuff. Where'd you grow up? Where did you begin?
Home base would be Hermosa Beach, California.
Okay, so you've never had to put up with snow. You just got to put up with sunshine your entire life, huh?
Well, I was born in Yakima, Washington, but I got out. So we call it Canada Light up there. So I learned to play hockey. Nobody understood what that was in Los Angeles. Back in the day, the purple and gold Kings, before Gretzky.
You might understand this thing, because I grew up in Detroit, and when I moved down to New Orleans, I did not know that Labatt was considered an exotic import. I thought Labatt was just the standard beer.
Budweiser's very popular in Germany. Mm-hmm. You know, who would have thought? You know, we're like, really? Oh, yeah, can we get a Bud? Yes, good. Budweiser, very good beer.
What got you started in performing?
I kind of grew up around the business. My father was in the entertainment business, so I kind of hung out at the studios watching and participating.
What did he do?
He was a TV director. Did a show called Mork and Mitty back in the early 80s. So I would hang out at the set and watch that. And there's a comedy club down in Hermosa Beach where I was living.
Comedy and Magic?
Comedy and Magic Club, yeah. I went to join the Air Force when I was 18, and they were closed. The recruiter, not the Air Force. I had a little glaucoma problem at the time.
Very nice.
And as I skateboarded home, I saw a Help Wanted sign, and I went in there, and they knew me because I was there 3 nights a week. I would just sneak in before I was 18 and watch Seinfeld, Leno, the greatest comics at that time before they were huge stars, just comedy club.
And Leno still does, I think, like a Monday night thing
every
there.
Sunday there.
Sunday.
Yeah. And I went in, I got a job as a doorman. And the owner hated me because I was this little scrawny 18-year-old kid. I wasn't a bouncer, but they couldn't get rid of me. So I did everything I possibly could. I'd read a book by Les Brown about just embrace yourself, make yourself so valuable. I videotaped all the acts. I cleaned the bathrooms. I was the busboy. I made salsa for the cooks. I did everything I possibly could. And eventually the MC got sick, and I went on, and they go, well, you've done theater. Go on stage. You host the show. And that was for Dana Carvey and Dennis Miller before they were stars. And I went on, and from that point on, they couldn't get me off the stage.
See, and that's always a really big trait. And there are 2 times that I can actually share something similar. The first was Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle.
Right. Great club.
The first time I ever got in there was for an open mic. I, of course, grew up in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I was too young to get in the club. I called because I wanted to do the open mic. Somehow I got Mark on the phone. And Mark even said, he's like, I asked him years later, he goes, I don't know. I heard the tenacity in your voice.
Yep.
And what Mark told me was, you can come, I'll put you on the list. You drink in my club, you'll never be allowed in here again. And because I always respected the club, you know, and
that goes a long way, that
Yep.
respect.
and
That's
then
huge.
The other thing was when, of course, Terry and Michael picked me up here in town to start joining Hypnosis Unleashed. And even though I had 15 years experience, I listened to what they said. I took their advice. I did their production work, their video work. I sat there and learned, and you become so valuable that it's easier and cheaper to keep you.
Right, exactly.
Than to dream of replacing you.
By the time I was 20, I was managing the nightclub. I was a house MC, and I was booking all the talent. So I was so invaluable to the club, it was cheaper to keep me. So when I left, they had to hire 3 people. Gary Brightwell took over as a house MC. Richard Miller took over as the nightclub manager, and Jimmy Miller took over as the talent coordinator. Jimmy Miller is the Millers, or Dennis Miller's brother.
I think I talked to Jimmy because Harry Anderson tried to get me over there a couple of times.
And Jimmy was he went on to manage Jim Carrey, Judd Apatow, and those people. And I went to go on the road.
Well, all right. So you emceed. Now, did you just MC there, or were you bouncing around?
I was there 6 nights a week, so I emceed there for 3 years, every night, 6 nights. And then I decided, off Leno's advice, he goes, if you want to get good, you got to see if it works outside of your home club. You got to go on the road. And the next week I quit. And I said, I'm going to get my notice. I had a great career, all kinds of power at 23 years old. And I went, nope, I want to go do this. And so I went on the road, and I've been doing it ever since. And 10 years ago, my wife and I cashed out of L.A. and moved up here to Vegas. Just have a quality of life. We could live better. We could still go to L.A., but I was working here so much. We were driving up here, every other month, it seemed like, for a show.
And cost of living's about a third the price.
And the people here are just so wonderful, so supportive. So we were able to produce a lot more projects up here. The Freedom of Speech comedy show. We did China Dolls, our independent film. We did her ab workout DVD. We've got 3 other projects on the works right now because we're able to do that up here. And there's so much talent waiting to work up here in Vegas.
Oh, God, yeah. And now, where was your first middling gig? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, actually. Oklahoma City.
Wait, so
Oklahoma
it was from Hermosa to Oklahoma City for your first feature.
First feature. I didn't go out as an opening act. I went out as a feature act.
Yes.
And I flew in. I got there a day early, just because I went to Sears, I think, because I had a travel agency at the time, used my Sears credit card to buy a plane ticket. I got there, and
that was before the internet, when you actually had to call somebody who knew where hotels and cars and planes were.
That was fax machines if you were lucky. Kinko's to mail you your mails. Phone cards. Oh my gosh, I'm so old now. And I get there, and the headliner got snowed in New York, so I had to close the show my first night. I did so well. He came in the next night, and I went up there, did my feature act, and then he came on after me and was okay. And the owner goes, you got to go back up there. I go, well, no, the show's over. He's done. He goes, no, you go up there and do another 20 minutes. I had no material, but I was used to working a crowd at the time, so I was able to go up there and talk to the crowd and kind of pick something up.
And one thing I've said over and over is it's that the old cliche, luck is opportunity meets preparedness.
Yep, exactly.
Where you're handed that one shot. Here you go, kid.
Right. Be prepared.
And you either make that door opens a sliver. You're either ready to kick it down, or you better not even dream of walking through it at that moment.
Right. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The 5 Ps. Opportunity presents itself, but you got to be ready. Those are some of my favorite quotes because I'm Woody Woodpecker. I'm persistent, and there's a fine line of being pestilent. You got to give people you could try. And the reason I think my success has been so lucrative is that while one thing is brewing, I'm working on another project. Because in comedy, you call, here are my avails, will you hire me? So you got to wait. Well, we're booked up for the next 3 months. Okay, call me back in a month. Okay, I call back in a month. In the meantime, what can I do to better myself? Like what you said in the opening. What are you doing today for that 10-year goal? And so I would start writing scripts, sketches, ideas, characters, studying my hypnosis, trying to evolve myself into a better human being. Personal therapy, self-help books, biographies, success ideas, while I was waiting for the comedy. And while that was going on, I was shooting sketches, and then I learned how to edit. I learned how to do other things. So that way I learned how to write press releases, do my own promotion. I learned about management and business skills as opposed to sitting around baking in front of the TV,
and hoping somebody else would do everything for you.
Yeah, and that's also been a curse because now I feel that I'm very well versed in the industry. So these young knuckleheads coming up are, well, here's what I know more in my little finger than they know in their experience. And sometimes agents and managers can really mess your career up because they want to be the star now, and their job is to work for you, and they forgot that. And you see that a lot in Hollywood.
Oh God, yeah. Well, you see it a lot everywhere too, because they seem to feel like they're endowed with power because they're an agent, and they like that. And
people love power,
and
people love it.
And I can tell you about so many great agents who have helped me and guided me. And who to this day, they call me up, I will be there. But there are a lot of people who it seems like they like to go, I'm going to put my thumb down on this, or I'm going to put you in a direction you shouldn't be, and then you're going to feel like a failure and you're never going to want to do it again.
I had a guy, I'm a beach kid originally. That's really how I grew up. Surfer dude, earrings, skateboard. I was Spicoli. Had a manager a long time ago goes, hey, can you do a Southern accent and be from the South? I go, yeah, I can do that character, but that is not me, and that's not what I want to do. No, you need to do that. You need to be a country boy.
And instead he got some radio DJ from Florida, and he's now Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah. And God bless Larry. Larry does what he does well.
But there's a guy who worked on character. I mean, he made that. He breathed life into that character. That was
an organic character that he created, and he did very well with it. And he laughs all the way to the bank. But it wasn't me. This guy wanted me to be from the South. He wanted me to be the Vanilla Ice of comedy. And create this backstory. I'm a good old boy. Yeah, that's one of those things. I've been successful enough that I can kind of write my own ticket and say no. And that's the hardest thing in this business because it's so gigs come and go. So we're so used to saying yes. We're so used to, please hire me. Please hire me. And I go, yeah, no.
But now this is true in any career. That moment where you have the confidence to say no to something you don't want, all of a sudden now people line up to give you the things you do want because you're not desperate and you're not begging for things.
Right.
And I think it's part of it is that it just projects that air of confidence.
Right.
But it also means that you know where you should be marketed now. And you know how to fit that.
That's a tough thing to do, is to be able to say no. Because we're so trained in life to not enjoy the moment, to not say no.
Well, a huge problem that, and I actually talked with a magician buddy of mine about this once, and my question to him was, what mistake do you wish you had made sooner?
All of them.
His big one was, I wish I would have specialized quicker. I wish I would have realized I am entertainment for this one specific niche. And it's hard because it's a Tuesday afternoon. You don't have anything else booked. You get offered something that doesn't really fit you. And it's hard to turn it down because it's a Tuesday afternoon.
Right.
But now to that entire crowd, to everybody who's going to book something for that entire crowd, that's what you are. And now you've just showed 200 people that you don't do what you specialize in.
It's a curse. And the best advice and worst advice my father ever gave me was do it all. Shotgun it. You know, if you're writing, great. But while you're waiting for the script to sell, learn to edit, learn to direct, learn to act, learn to do voiceover, learn to sing, do everything. That way, you never know what's going to stick. And that's why you see some of these artists. They were rap artists, but now they're a film artist. Will Smith, a great example.
Yep.
So you never know what's going to happen. That's great advice, but it's also terrible advice. Where if I would have just been a specialty act, that might have helped, but then that's all I would do. And for me, I love the freedom to be able to go and do, like in the beginning, if I had enough money to do anything I wanted to do, I would do exactly what I'm doing now, only at a higher level. I would go out and find other acts, other people, other artists, other businesses, and invest in them. I would be Santa Claus, because you see the people all the time. You see people that just radiate, and you go, wow, that person, I would invest in them, and I don't even know what they are or who they are. It's that angel investor thing. Carol Burnett talked about it once, how someone saw her and said, listen, I'm gonna pay for your theatrical training. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to sponsor you under two conditions. One, you never tell who I am. And two, if you make it, then you do the same thing for somebody else. And that would be the ultimate, because there's so much talent. There's so much raw talent that just need a break, a hand, a guide, just a little nudge in the right direction. But they're not trained because our society, and this I think is why we're both into hypnosis, and is that our society doesn't teach us to enjoy the process. You'll be happy if you do this. And the problem is you're never happy because you're always chasing something.
Which came first for you, hypnosis or the USO stuff?
Well, hypnosis, I don't think I would be here without hypnosis, because it was probably 1978. I was really going down the wrong path. I was doing a lot of drugs. I was hanging
In
out
the 70s?
Yeah,
Really?
I know, right? Duh. Cocaine was not addictive back then. You know, my dad was doing his career, and he was trying to raise a single man raising a boy, and I was at the beach, and it was just kind of a very open time. So I was going down the wrong path, and that's why I went to join the military. I honestly, how deep do you want to go?
Go for it.
I was ready to pull the plug.
Okay.
I could taste the metal of the barrel in my mouth. And few people know this. And there is a voice inside. I call it God. You can define it however you want to. I don't really follow religion, but I do have a higher calling and a power. So I call it God. So there's a voice inside that said, just hang in there. Huh? What? I'm done. I don't need this lifetime. This is BS. Hang in there. One more day. Give me one more day. I'm going to show you something. Okay. What do I have to lose? I can do this tomorrow. You know, I'm not going anywhere. How bad could it get? I'm kind of a tenacious. Really? All right. I double dog dare you. And I ended up at a library, and I started going through the self-help section, and I found a book on hypnosis, on, you know, rewriting your inner dialogue to live the life of your dreams, kind of thing. And it literally jumped out at me, and I saw it, and I started reading through it. And I ended up sitting down. I read the whole book right there, and the librarian's like, you know, you can take it home. I go, I don't have time to take it home. And from that point on, I was addicted to that. And it became a positive addiction to turning my life around and taking control of my life, not living the life that other people told me I was. You're a loser. Who do you think you are? You think you're special? You think you're better than everybody else? Oh, you want this? You want to do something? Yeah, we're all special. We all succeeded from birth. We are all one in a million. And the problem is, once we graduate into life, we forget that because we let other people's insecurities, low self-esteem just hammer on us and write the scripts of our life. And so I learned through that. I got over stage fright. I got over my shyness. I got over my addictions at the time. So I had been practicing that since 78. And that got me on stage. That got me involved into doing open mics and going back to school and kind of finding my way. And the USO came about in 92. I got divorced. It was brutal, but through the power that I got through changing my life, I said, I'm going to go through this sober. I'm not going to medicate myself. I'm not going to numb myself out. And I found myself backpacking through Europe, just kind of trying to find myself. And I found myself in Amsterdam. Go figure. And but I saw a USO sign, and I walked over there instead of going into the cafes or the coffee shops. I walked over there and I talked to the guy, and he goes, "Yeah, just send us your tape. We'd love to have you as a comic. Come do a show for us." So I did that. I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and from that point on, I've been doing military shows almost every year, 2, 3 times, 4 times a year.
I was gonna say you've been doing it now for about 20 years, and
yeah,
I mean you're kind of doing the Bob Hope thing where you're really going out there. You are really working with these guys.
I try. We got George Wallace to go overseas. I'm going back to Afghanistan again in September. And I just did Kyrgyzstan. And I try and produce a lot. In fact, I was posting yesterday that we're trying to find more acts to go overseas. Unfortunately, a lot of people say, I support the troops. Hey, do you want to go overseas? We'll give you a per diem. We can't pay your normal rate, but we'll pay you something. Oh, no, I can't do that. I need to make some money. George Wallace, beautiful man, said, when do we leave? He didn't ask how much. And basically, most of those tours cover your expenses, your flights, your food, and a little pocket change so you're not really losing money. But George has to take a cut and pay. He could make a ton of money. Larry the Cable Guy, people like that. They're willing to go overseas, but there are a lot of knuckleheads that play the image of Johnny American. I support the troops, but they want 100% of their paycheck to go do it. So that's a little disconcerting.
And there is also a moment where you have to look at certain things as paying your dues, not just as a performer, but as a human being, where what can my talent do to improve the world around me, not just my own private world?
You hit the nail on the head, Kevin. Like, my heartbreak is that I'm not more famous, that I can't do more for the men and women serving the country. Because I went to join, but the recruiter was closed that day. It was a holiday weekend. So I ended up doing comedy that night, and I always swore that I would do something for the troops if I made a living in stand-up. And it kind of came full circle. I wish I was more famous. I had my own jet that I go, hey, you know what, Elton, you want to come over? Hey, you too. I'm doing a show, and you come on over. Okay, we'll go. You know, that's my only regret. And there's still time to do that in this life. You know, as I circle around and meet more people.
You got remarried.
I did, yeah.
And now, was she in the military at all?
Not at all.
And the reason I asked that is because of a project that you and her, she's teaching it.
Yeah.
But the self-defense, how'd that come about?
Well, good question. You've done your research on me, man.
A little bit.
My wife, she immigrated this country. She's from Vietnam originally. She was in a refugee camp and then came to this country. And started off not speaking English, being harassed, teased, just the worst you could have. The prejudice that Americans had towards Asians at that time. And she fought to be better than she could. So she learned the language, fell in love with this country. They busted their butt. And once we started dating and going, she saw that I did all these tours, and she's like, well, what could I do? Is there anything I could do? And she studied self-defense. And I said, well, why don't you put a women's self-defense team together? Because the women in the military, there is a certain amount of sexual harassment that happens. So the military tries to combat that, to empower their women with different types of lectures, self-help seminars, etc. So I pitched that to the Armed Forces Entertainment group, and they loved it. So we ended up taking her team, Sean Fitzsimmons, who's a professional MMA fighter here in Vegas. We took him and a couple other guys, SWAT team specialist, and then another guy, I can't say his name because he does undercover work. So we took all these specialists, and her specialty is Wing Chun, Kung Fu, as well as knife fighting. And we put this team together. We went overseas for a couple weeks to teach the women in the military how to better protect themselves. And she does seminars here in Vegas as well. And she protects me. This 4'11", 88-pound Asian girl is
your own personal bodyguard.
Man, I'll make her mad. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
You know, I'm just pointing that out just because. So you do a lot of different things, and they're profitable for you. But the one theme that runs through it is everything you're doing connects to something you're passionate about, and also connects to other people.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that. You know, those are the things that drive you. Those are the things that make you get out of bed if you're passionate about it. like you said, I don't think I'll ever retire because I love what I do. If I retire, it'll just mean, well, I'm going to do more of what I'm doing now.
It might mean putting one hat down and getting a bigger size hat in another arena.
Yeah, I might not go on the road as much. Like you've got a show in Vegas, so that keeps you home kind of centered, so you have a base from which to expand out. That would be ideal, but I'm kind of open to where the universe takes me. And to me, going back to the very beginning of what you said, so many people, I'll be happy when I make $1 million. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. But what are you doing now that makes you happy? What's that 5-year goal, the 10-year goal? What can you do today to get you closer to that goal? And if you don't enjoy the process, you may as well quit, because you're never going to be happy no matter how much money you get. And that's why people buy their toys. They hate their job. They're miserable. So they buy all these toys thinking it's going to make them happy. And they all, I don't know if you had sent me this quote that poor people buy big TVs, rich people buy big libraries for their homes. They have books, they read, they expand their knowledge so they can, it's that rich dad, poor dad syndrome. They learn how to create assets as opposed to just consume and buy stuff for their garage.
And it's that big difference between I'm getting a creature comfort because it improves the quality of my life, and I'm buying a distraction from a life I hate.
Right. And God, if whatever you define God to be, God wants you to be successful because you can do more. You can go out and help people. You can do all kinds of great things the more successful you are. Or you can be a douchebag.
We're going to be back in 2 minutes. We're going to be joined by our co-host, William Arendell. We'll be back in 2. Hello, Las Vegas from Hypnosis Unleashed. All Las Vegas locals get half off every night at the show, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. Come and join us for Las Vegas's wildest hypnosis show. Watch your friends get turned into rock stars, watch them do the craziest things, or come and be hypnotized yourself. This show has won all the awards here in Las Vegas, and we want to show you why. Come join us every Tuesday through Sunday night. VegasHypnosisShow.com for more details. That's VegasHypnosisShow.com.
Hey, it's Roxy from the 702 Rock Show, right here at VegasAllNetRadio.com. Listen to my show every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear about local artists, musicians, fashion designers, and more, right here in Las Vegas. So tune in every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear me, Michelle Roxy Davis, right here at VANR on the 702 Rock Show.
Monday Mayhem is back at Gene Woods Racing Experience Go-Kart Track. The stakes are higher than ever, and the winner takes all if you've got what it takes. The winner will get to race a real Thunder Roadster at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in an actual race. So be there every Monday. First race starts at 7. Come early to register. We are located at 121 East Sunset Road at the Sports Center, across from McCarran Airport. For more information, call us at 702-270-8100. That's 702-270-8100. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can go to our website at racingexperiencelv.com. Once you race here, you won't go anywhere else. Monday Mayhem is back.
Welcome back to Live Unleashed. We are joined now by William Arendell down in New Orleans. Will, how you feeling?
Great. It's good to hear your voice, Kevin, and it's good to meet you, Don. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure, William. Thanks for joining us.
And we were actually kind of talking on the break about something that you and I talk about a lot, which is how people are trying to be the next somebody instead of the first them. And it was when you had all the people trying to sound like Mitch Hedberg, or you have everybody trying to be, the next Doug Stanhope and being that, trying to be that shot guy, but not being themselves.
Yeah, and I really think that comes from, not being able to look at who you are. When you have a lot of anxiety inside you, you have a tough time looking at who you are. And so you're trying to imitate to be someone else, hopefully to feel something different, I think. What do you think makes you most unique, Don?
That's a great question. What makes me unique is the fact that I'm finally at a point that I stopped apologizing for being who I am. this is the best I can be today. Tomorrow might be better. If I make mistakes, I will improve upon those. But for so long, I was always trying to give them what they wanted. And you have to be true to yourself. You have to be your best self. And a lot of times, I love this. I'm so passionate about the things that I do. My enthusiasm can be mistaken for desperation, because I'm willing to go in there and do 100%. What do you need? But that can often be mistaken because there are some very bad people in the world that will abuse that, soul suckers, if you will. And so I got to a certain point, and possibly that's a little money in the bank, or I've done it so much that Tim Robbins character in Bull Durham where he just finally shakes his head, I get it. And I just don't care anymore. I give everything I possibly can, do the best I can, but I really don't care if somebody doesn't like me because they have a problem. Because I know that I'm a good person. I know that I'm not going to stab somebody, steal, cheat, or lie. So if they don't like me, they have an issue, and it's not mine to try and get caught up into their whirlwind of dysfunction.
What is it about yourself that you found you were apologizing for?
It wasn't anything specific. Just I was always, what can I do? What can I do? How can I do this? And club owners, especially comedy club owners, can be very manipulative. You know, you'll kill in a comedy club.
No, you say.
I know. It's shocking.
If you just change this part, look, I know the audience was laughing, but it wasn't the right laughter from my club. Would you just be this for me instead? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I can be that for you.
Right, but they know that most entertainers have a hole in their soul that are trying to fill that, so they will manipulate that until you get to the point that you love what you do, you heal yourself, and now you're doing it because you love your job. It's a craft. You got good at it, et cetera, et cetera. So comedy club owners, you could kill, and they'll walk out of the room. So you go, hey, did you see this? No, what happened? Was it okay? They will specifically deny you any sort of pat on the back. And one club owner said, I'll never compliment a comic because that way he won't ask for more money. He goes, I give you cheap drinks or free drinks. I hope you sleep with my waitresses. That way you come back next week for half.
And also you get that moment too where, and I've tried to tell this to people over and over, if somebody tells you to change to match what they want because they'll get you more bookings,
right,
they will never get you more bookings.
No. And I think the entertainment is like a rocket, but it has no guidance system on it. And a good manager will help guide that, but you still have to do the work. And because I cut off all ties and I said I'm going to be successful, I ended up doing everything I possibly could. I took any gig for any amount of money, anywhere, anytime, any place. But in retrospect, that also helped me to get better, to get to the point that I am now, that I just go, whatever.
I moved to New Orleans and did ghost tours for a while.
I worked at Carl's Jr., so, I've paid my dues. But that's the hardest part is finding your voice.
Right.
And I teach stand-up comedy, and the thing that we teach is to find your voice because nobody can be the best you. And we got a few moments. I'll be honest. I made a terrible, when I first started doing a hypnosis show, I was out on cruise ships doing my stand-up, and so I put a hypnosis show together. I'd only knew what I knew. So I read some books on hypnosis. It's kind of like magic. Oh, you can buy magic in a box. Here's the trick. Here's the pattern. Do your stuff. So the books that I read said, here are the bits. Here's the order to do it. Here's some songs. Now go do a show. I bought some DVDs from some trainers that said, oh, here's how you do a stage hypnosis show. I unfortunately did not take a class like Kevin teaches that really emphasizes that, where in stand-up, it's all about originality. If you do something, somebody else does, you need to change that. So when I put my show together, I went out, I already had a personality, I already had stages to perform. My show is very generic, and I followed a lot of other people, even similar music, and it's hard to get those. And I got called out on it. And some people said some very nasty things, and I had to call them on it. But then I also came back and said, I'll be the first to admit I was copying what I had seen out there before. So that's a mistake. Let's sit down and have a dialogue about that and help teach the world of young hypnotists how to find that originality. Let's not push the template of do this and you will have a show.
and I'll maintain this, that there, in my mind, there's a difference between reading a book and reciting it and theft, because if you've put it in a book like that, then I believe it's public domain. But if you do that in a public setting, if you recite that script, you're not good. You might. I tell young hypnotists to do this. Go out there and do some high schools for free. Do them as fundraisers. Do fundraisers in a coffee shop. Do them somewhere so you can get the practice to develop your voice while you're. Because if you do a show in a major public setting, a cruise ship, a corporate gig, somewhere where there's some press, and you're doing things that aren't you're gonna get shot.
Oh, totally. And I got lucky because I already have my stand-up show here. I got a show in Vegas at the Palace Station, so they gave me a month there to do the show. And honestly, I had never really done a show, so I was throwing everything I possibly had, everything that I knew. And in stand-up, young stand-ups tend to mimic the people that they saw. I was very Seinfeld-esque. Hey, what's up with that? Or Dennis Miller-esque when I first started, because we emulate the people that influence us. And that's hard because you have to find your own voice. And in hypnosis, and again, the guy that some of his students called me out. He never called me out on it because he knew that I was new, and he kind of just he kind of brushed it off. He was very classy about it. But some of his students said some very slanderous things. I go, yeah, you got to back it up on that one, because now you're starting to encroach. But I'll be the first to admit that's what I was doing. I was copying what I had seen out there.
Don, what do you do to help people find their own voice in comedy or hypnosis?
Well, I don't teach hypnosis. That's the first thing I don't. Although I'm certified, I'm a great hypnotist now, and I've got a great show, but I don't teach that because there are people that do that better than I, Kevin being one of them. But when I teach stand-up, that's my forte. I tell people, cut open a vein and let your soul bleed out, because pain is funny. And if you can take that on stage, turn that around and find the funny in that, of course, pain plus time equals humor, tragedy right away is not funny, but there's something usually that the universe has put out there to have a pressure release valve to let us deal with that pain. That's why we laugh at funerals. That's why we laugh when our parents don't laugh. You guys go to bed.
Yeah, the giggle loop starts.
And you do it in a show. You start people laughing, and they can't stop doing that.
There's also, I think, a moment when you're doing any sort of stand-up. And, of course, you're emulating people, and you're doing this, and you're doing that. But then there's that first time, and it's almost usually an improv moment more than a written moment, where you accidentally say something completely authentic. You get a huge, genuine laugh, and this huge door in your brain opens, and you go, oh.
Yeah, it's that revelation, and it will happen on stage if you don't try and rush it, like everything. From sex to business, you can't rush it. It has to build a nice foundation, build up, and then it will bloom. The problem with hypnosis, per se, is that you don't really start out as an opening act. You don't do 10-minute hypnosis show to kind of learn your craft, learn from other people.
Well, and see, now the funny thing is, I've actually told people to go and do the 10-minute stuff. And I've told them to go, and I hate when hypnotists use the word pre-talk. I tell people, go out and do your opening monologue at a comedy club. But do the open mics. Get used to finding that voice, and then the routines you do in it will start sounding natural.
But see, that's why you are where you are, and some of the plethora of teachers out there. It turns out that there's a multi-level marketing system for hypnosis.
Yes.
To where you learn this, and then you will turn this into a business of teaching other people how to turn this into a business.
Without ever, I just saw.
Kind of thing.
Oh my God! Okay. I'm going to do something I have never done on this show. I'm going to be polite and not name a name, but. Yeah, no, I've got no problem.
Falling over in my chair.
I know. But it was somebody who 2 years ago got trained as a hypnotist, has done 6 shows, and has seen like 6 clients for quitting smoking, and is now offering a course on how to be a hypnotist and do a successful show and run a successful business. I'm like, you've done 6 shows in 2 years.
I can name that hypnotist in 2 guesses. But that's okay. You know what? People have to find their own way, and it's not up for me to tell people how to live their life. But if they'd like to be successful, they can come and ask. I'll be more than happy to share that.
And you've opened a lot of doors for people. And this is really, really important to me because you're out there headlining. You're out there doing gigs all over the world. And people go, oh, well, he's charging his students. He's doing it for the money. You would make more money doing anything else that week.
Totally. And the first thing I say for my comedy class is that you don't need my class. You don't. I'm going to tell you what I know, what I'm successful at. These are the guidelines, not rules. They work for me. I break the rules all the time. Come to my show, see my show, and then call me on, well, you said don't do that, but you did that. Well, there's a reason, because nothing is always or never. And so I tell people, if you go on stage, you can learn this for yourself in 2 to 3 years, 5 years. How much do you want to commit to it? Or you can go to an expert and learn from them. People say, and this is my biggest pet peeve, those that can't teach. Well, that is true on some occasions, but those that are very successful at what they do love to teach and help create a better next generation, because I want the comics coming up underneath me to be even better than I am, to go out there and break new ground. And someday they'll look back and they'll hire me to open for them. And I'll be thrilled for that.
And a couple of great things about teaching people too is when you teach, you have to go back over your own stuff.
Oh, it makes you even better. Yes.
You have to relearn. And also when you're teaching, you're providing these opportunities. What you're really doing is, in my opinion, the only thing you can do when you're teaching somebody about performing is go, here, I'm going to help you make a mistake faster so you can get through it quicker.
And to get that experience of learning, get on. And I look at myself as more of a coach as opposed to a teacher, because I'm helping technique, guidelines, the craft, joke writing. Well, you're a little wordy. Let's cut the fat. Your performance on stage should be delivering a punchline, not wandering aimlessly. Everyone's at different levels, and then you give them the experience. Like with your show and your teaching, they get actual stage training. They get to do a show as opposed to just, okay, here's theory and go do this now, which a lot of people do, unfortunately.
And Will teaches the class with me, and
that's where I know the Will name. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And I think it's so important too with the hypnosis, especially to teach the safety aspects. I see a lot of shows where I'm just thinking, as a therapist, this is job security.
Oh yeah. I made a terrible mistake. Number one, the first thing I did was get insurance. Number two, I was doing a fair, and everyone kind of goes back to their seats, and I count them back 3, 2, 1. But a guy didn't make it all the way back to his seat. I had turned my back. He had been kind of a clown, and he did a face plant right on the stage. And I could hear the crowd go, and it's on videotape. And his mom tried to sue. Turns out the kid got kicked in the head by a bull the week before, so he'd already had a concussion. And he was a little bit, the lawsuit never got anywhere, but people are litigious. And that was a mistake. I was a very young performer at that time. And
we actually put people on the stage during that course, and they get to go through that. So when they forget to do these things, like your butt is glued to your chair and they say sleep, we get to yell freeze as everybody's falling to the floor and go, what'd you miss?
What a great, brilliant, but that's because you guys are passionate about what you do, and you're also protective. That's the other thing. A good teacher is protective of their students and the business in general, as opposed to the guy that I learned from said, here's an act, go do it. Knock yourself out. All right. And then people go, hey, you might want to just kind of, we're not all doing act in a box,
And I want, it's like what you're talking about too with your students is you don't want to see clones, and you don't want to see somebody who's going to go out there and trash stuff. I don't want you to take a course so you can do 2 gigs. I want you to take this course so you can build a career.
Right. But that's the difference between you guys and many other teachers. They want you to take the class and then go away. A gym wants you to sign up and pay your monthly fee and not show up, because then it'll be crowded. And a lot of teachers out there don't want you to succeed. To me, my comedy class, if they go on and become superstars, that just makes me even happier. And if I help them genuinely and from my heart, if I help them get closer to that or push them or gave them the encouragement, then maybe they'll remember me down the road. Maybe they won't. It doesn't matter. They don't have to, but maybe they will. And maybe they'll go, hey, Barnhart, nice job, man. Let me buy you dinner. All right, sweet.
Hey, Will, we're running a little bit short on time. You got like 2 to 3 minutes. Is there something you want to talk about on the physical side?
Sure. Actually, because you brought it up last week and a little bit this week, I want to talk about the signs of burnout. Burnout comes, I think it happens to a lot of people. I was looking for statistics, actually, for this, and I couldn't, there was numbers out there, but I couldn't find anything really reliable. But the things that come out with burnout is the first thing you might notice is that you're always tired, or you're tired most days. The next thing that people usually experience is a lack of sleep, and it might start with just waking up at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and then the next day you're fine. The next day it gets a little worse, little worse, little worse, little worse. The other thing people notice with burnout is forgetfulness. Their concentration gets impaired. They'll have word-finding difficulties. They will forget who they're talking about or what they're talking about in the middle of the sentence. People with burnout experience physical symptoms like chest pains, heart palpitations, even shortness of breath. They'll have an increase in illness, so they get sick more often. People with burnout, or as they're moving into burnout, lose their appetite a lot, or they'll eat the same things over and over. They'll experience an increase in anxiety as well, and depression, sad thoughts, because as that cortisol raises, and cortisol helps us for a period of time, it increases memory. After a period of time, it starts to decrease memory as it pushes on the brain. And so we get that anxiety and we get that waking up in the middle of the night. Also, what people notice is an increase in irritability and a loss of enjoyment. Now, burnout's not a DSM-4 diagnosis or an official diagnosis because usually what you need is rest and it goes away. But what I found with people is that if they don't get the rest they need, a lot of those symptoms can become permanent, and then you'll need therapy to help reduce them. So the best thing you can do when you're experiencing burnout is to limit your exposure to what's burning you out, usually it's our job, and to take a break. And what a lot of people do is they get into this point of, if I just work harder, and all the defenses that we usually have go on overdrive, and they start to work against us, and that's the main one. And you have to break that cycle. And sometimes I'll work with people, and it takes them a while to take them more than 3 days off. Because if you feel that you're starting to be indispensable at your job, which some of us are a bit indispensable, but if you feel like you start to feel like you can't leave, that is one of the main signs I find of burnout.
And
thanks for letting me talk about that,
yep.
Kev. I think it's an important thing.
And of course, they can always go to helpneworleans.com at any time. There's always more information on Will's site. Also, Facebook, Live Unleashed Radio. Will constantly puts up different topics to look at and to get more information. Don, what's the best website for you?
DonBarnhart.com.
And you can use DonBarnhart.com to learn about his classes, learn about the different events and the different shows. Of course, you can email me anytime at info@vegashypnosisshow.com. It's info@vegashypnosisshow.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.